Hello, judges. My presentation today is about the VEX V5 robotics competition, about intakes and lifts. Intakes and lifts are the two main scoring mechanisms for this year's game, high stakes. And intakes are used for scoring on mobile goals, and lifts are used to score on wall stakes, alliance stakes, and maybe even the high stake in the middle of the playing field. So, I am Bharat and I'm a ninth grader entering robotics. So let's examine the two critical components for this game. The, there are two types of intakes, the hood intake and the hook intake, and that I have researched. And so this is the first one, the hood intake. In my opinion, the hood intake is much more efficient and speedy. It has a automatic ring selection and it uses wheels to accelerate rings onto mobile goals. This automation reduces driver workload and increases efficiency. Um, as for speed and precision, it has, and I say it also has a much more active ring control, and the teams are able to integrate it with other systems like a hopper system that I'll come touch on later. And the robot that you see in the image is the robot of 2775V Team Jackson Area Robotics. And I would say that the hooded take also has its own challenges because it is pretty complicated to build as it has many parts to it that can lead to potential points of failure. And it also has a lot of power demands as for there's a conversion to the mobile goal, and you require to tune it as for not it doesn't fit perfectly onto every robot on the first try. Now, shown in the picture is 10B exothermic blaze, and they chose for a hook intake design, and I would say that hook intakes have a error tolerance, and that means that even if the ring is slightly off, you can still hook onto it using a small piece of plastic. You can see on their chain that there's a small hook, plastic hook, that goes around every time picking up a ring. It's also much more simple than the hood intake. If you saw before, there was a big conveyor system, but here it's just a singular hook and a chain, and it's easier to construct and maintain. And it's also much more energy efficient as you only need one motor to run the sprocket. And space optimization. So the hook intake takes much less space than hood intake. However, there's a high jamming risk if you don't tune this might require a lot of tuning before matches. It's also much more passive than the hood intake, so if not tuned properly, you don't have a good control over the rings, especially when they're entering the robot. And you need a lot of manual adjustments to make this type of intake work for this game. Now, there are two types of lifts, the hopper lift and the claw lift. And the robot that is pictured here chose by the Whisper team of 8110W. They chose a hopper lift, and that I would say is very versatile and has a lot of power as well. It's very rapid. You'd use multiple motors for both sides of the hopper lift, and speed is crucial in these high intensity matches, and the driver control period and autonomous period together is only 2 minutes. It's also very integrated with the intake, so you don't waste any more time than you need to by trying to pick it up individually. You just need to use your intake and load it into the hopper. And at the end of the game, for bonus, you can also use it for a climbing capability, and this can be used for bonus points if your team wants to win. But, however, the hopper lift also has its own considerations. It's pretty intricate as it moves the entire intake system. It's also very big. You have to keep in mind expansion limits and weight. It is very heavy as it requires you to move the entirety of the intake, and most of the robot goes up with it. And for this reason, there's a lot of high energy requirements. The second type of lift is the claw lift. The robot pictured here, it's not that visible, but this is also the same robot that we saw at the beginning, the 2775V Jackson Area Robotics team. And their claw lift has a compact design, and generally most claw lifts do. But however, even with their compact design, they usually jut out from the side, causing them to be not they like more space and keep in mind expansion limits again. And they can also have dual functionality of grabbing mobile goals, so that adds to your strategy, but that's not the most useful because use two you can't hold two mobile. You humans understand claws better than what the hopper system is. Oh, and it's also much easier to approximate how you're scoring. As for performance trade-offs, it's separate from the intake as you need to load it separately and pick it up off the ground. It has speed limitations because of that. And it's also not that stable, as you saw. It's only one beam, but the hopper lift was made of two beams. So if your robot gets hit by another robot, then it might cause your rings to be knocked off. So, conclusion. Choose the right design. I say the hood intake is good because it allows for fast scoring and the intake is very seamless. And compared to the hook intake, anyways, that you have, which means even more speed and versatility in game. But as any team, you must consider based on the skills and resources available to you, such as expansion limits or energy usage for the robot. So that was my presentation. Thank you, judges, and everyone else.